I never thought a single school day could turn my entire world upside down. One minute, I was just me, Jamie, the guy who blended into the background, who went to class, hung out with friends, and worried about homework and basketball practice. The next, everything changed. It started with a dare, a stupid, funny challenge from my so-called friends that I thought I could laugh off. But by the time I looked in the mirror that morning, I barely recognized the person staring back at me. My heart was pounding, hands shaking as I tugged at the skirt that felt alien against my skin. The soft fabric hugged my hips in a way that made me hyper-aware of every curve. I had chosen the blue plaid one because I thought it was safe, but the reality was far from it. The shirt, delicate and fitted, made me feel exposed, vulnerable. And the heels, they were beautiful, yes, but every step sent sparks of panic through me. My legs wobbled as I walked down the hall, trying desperately not to draw attention. I felt like I was being watched, judged, dissected by everyone around me. And honestly, I was. It was worse than I imagined. Whispers filled the corridors like an invisible storm. Is that Jamie? Whoa, look at him. No, her. Each comment was a dagger, cutting deeper into my already fragile confidence. My stomach churned with embarrassment. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the lockers and never reappear. But somehow, I survived that first period, gripping my books tightly, telling myself, just make it through. One class at a time. Even lunch was a battlefield. Friends I had known forever stared at me like I'd become a stranger overnight. I tried to smile, to make a joke, but my voice sounded strange to my own ears, higher, uncertain, as if it didn't belong to me. My fingers fidgeted with the edge of my skirt as I sat down, and I noticed every eye in the cafeteria scanning me. Every glance made me shrink a little more, and yet, I couldn't help but notice how some people's expressions softened, how a few smiled in admiration, or maybe curiosity. That small spark of recognition was terrifying and exciting all at once. When I got home that evening, I collapsed onto my bed, heels kicked off, skirt wrinkled, hair slightly messy from the day's chaos. I stared at myself in the mirror, running my fingers over my cheeks, down my neck, over my shoulders. I was exhausted, embarrassed, and yet, I couldn't deny the strange thrill that tingled through me. My reflection felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The soft curves, the delicate collarbones, the way the clothes hugged me, it was intoxicating. I was seeing myself differently, in a way I hadn't allowed before. The next few days became a mix of torment and fascination. At school, every step was a test. I learned to walk in heels without wobbling too much, to sit gracefully, to fold my hands just so. I began experimenting with my voice, softening the tone, practicing a lilting rhythm that felt natural. Each small improvement made me feel more me, but the fear never fully disappeared. I could feel the stares, the whispers, the judgment just beneath the surface. At home, I explored further. I tried different skirts, blouses, even makeup. It started small, a swipe of lip balm, a touch of mascara, but every tiny adjustment made me more aware of my transformation. I marveled at how my face could change with just a brush of color, how my body felt different when adorned in clothes meant for someone else, yet somehow, I felt at home. I began to practice in front of mirrors, tilting my head, adjusting my posture, learning how to move like the person I was becoming. One afternoon, I even tried to style my hair, brushing it gently, experimenting with ponytails and loose waves. The sensation was electric, soft hair sliding through my fingers, the reflection staring back at me, smiling shyly but with a spark of pride. I was discovering a new version of myself, hidden beneath layers I had never allowed to surface. Social interactions became experiments, too. I started noticing how people responded differently to me, teachers, classmates, even strangers online when I posted a subtle selfie. There was power in being noticed, in holding attention in a way I never had before. But there was also vulnerability, the constant awareness that this version of me could be mocked, misunderstood, or rejected at any moment. Despite the fear, I couldn't stop. Week by week, I grew bolder. I learned to walk with confidence in heels, to smile without wincing, to hold conversations without my voice cracking. Each day was a battle between embarrassment and exhilaration, and slowly, I realized something profound. This was more than a dare or a punishment, it was an awakening. I was beginning to like the way I felt, the way I looked, the way I moved in this new skin. The turning point came during a school dance. I had dressed carefully, choosing a soft, flowing dress, subtle makeup, and my favorite heels. As I entered the gym, music vibrating through the floor, I could feel dozens of eyes on me. Panic fluttered in my chest, but I took a deep breath and reminded myself, you've survived this before. You can do it again. Slowly, I moved through the crowd, feeling the stares, the whispers, the occasional smile. And then something amazing happened. People started approaching me, not to mock, but to compliment. You look amazing, Jamie. Wow, that dress is gorgeous. The words, warm and genuine, wrapped around me like sunlight breaking through clouds. I realized, with a shock, that I had never felt so seen, so admired, so alive. By the end of the night, I was dancing, laughing, moving freely in a way I never had before. The heels, the dress, even the makeup, all of it had become an extension of me, not a mask or a punishment. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I had discovered a part of myself that had always been there, waiting, hidden beneath fear and expectation. When I finally returned home, exhausted but exhilarated, I collapsed onto my bed, heels off, hair messy, dress slightly wrinkled. I looked in the mirror one last time and smiled, genuinely, without hesitation. The person staring back at me was me, confident, authentic, unafraid. The journey had been terrifying, humiliating, exhilarating, and liberating all at once. And I knew, without a doubt, that I could never go back to hiding who I was. Because for the first time, I wasn't forced into anything. I had chosen to embrace every curve, every glance, every step. And in doing so, I had discovered a freedom I never thought possible. The freedom to be me, completely and unapologetically, even in a world that once tried to define me differently. The days after that first humiliating morning became a strange mix of dread and curiosity. Every time I stepped into school, my stomach twisted. Hallways that had once been neutral territory now felt like a gauntlet. Every glance, every whisper, every snicker felt magnified. My friends, the ones I thought I could trust, weren't cruel, but they couldn't hide their surprise. Jamie, wow, you look different, one said, trying to sound casual, but I could hear the fascination in his voice. I wanted to scream, to run, to hide, but instead I smiled stiffly, praying they wouldn't look too long. Classes were worse. Sitting at my desk, I was painfully aware of my skirt, the way the fabric brushed my legs with every movement. The heels made my calves ache, forcing me to adjust constantly. I caught glimpses of myself in reflective surfaces, windows, shiny lockers, and the reflection almost startled me. The familiar Jamie I knew was gone, replaced by someone softer, delicate, and painfully visible. My voice, higher than usual from nerves, made answering questions in class a new kind of torture. Even lunch was a battlefield. I held my tray tightly, tried to keep my head down, but everyone noticed. Some whispered, some giggled. One girl leaned over and said with a teasing smile, "Nice outfit, Jamie." I nodded, cheeks burning, my mind racing. Don't trip. Don't say something stupid. Just get through this. But the curiosity in their eyes made me feel different. Vulnerable, yes, but also alive. When I got home, the safety of my room became my haven. I closed the door, kicked off the heels, and finally let myself breathe. That's when the real exploration began. I stood in front of my mirror, staring at this new body that felt both foreign and fascinating. My fingers traced the contours of my hips, the gentle swell of my chest. I had never paid attention before, but now every curve, every line felt significant. I began experimenting with clothes, trying on skirts and blouses that had always felt intimidating. The textures, the colors, the way fabric moved over my skin, it was overwhelming and intoxicating. A soft, pink blouse against my shoulders made me shiver with excitement. A pleated skirt that swayed when I moved made me giggle nervously at myself. It was like discovering a secret world where my body could feel beautiful, delicate, and alive. Makeup came next. I had never worn it before, and at first, It felt ridiculous. Mascara clumped, eyeliner smudged, blush looked unnatural. But with each attempt, I got better. Blending, brushing, highlighting. I could see subtle differences emerge. My eyes looked bigger, my lips softer, my face lighter somehow. And with every small improvement, a strange confidence grew inside me. Even my voice became part of the transformation. I practiced speaking softly, modulating my tone, learning a rhythm that matched my new appearance. I laughed quietly at first, trying to mimic the femininity I had seen in others, but gradually, it began to feel natural. My reflections smiled back at me, shyly at first, then with a glimmer of pride. By the end of the week, something had shifted. The fear hadn't vanished, it lingered, a constant hum, but curiosity and excitement had taken root. I was no longer just enduring this transformation. I was exploring it, learning it, embracing it. That mirror in my room, once a source of panic, had become a place of discovery, a silent companion in my journey. And in those quiet moments alone, I realized the truth. This was no longer about a dare, or a joke, or a school punishment. It was about me, who I could be, who I wanted to be, and the strange, thrilling realization that maybe, just maybe, I had been waiting for this all along.